We also look at C-reactive protein, another major issue, as I've talked about already, that there's not a great relationship between egg consumption and C-reactive protein. It becomes less clear. Meta-analysis, which means a large grouping of studies, basically showed that there are no significant effects of egg consumption on C-reactive protein levels. That makes it kind of, you start to question. But when it comes to apolipoprotein B, there is growing data that says that there is an impact. Now, we just talked about apolipoprotein B is the marker you really want to know, and it tells us that there may be a relationship. This is apart from trimethylamine oxide, the pathway in which, from animal protein ingestion, that there can be a triggering of atherosclerotic events. We're looking specifically at lipids. So not only that, also looking at the microbiome, which is part the trimethylamine oxide pathway and the L-carnitine. And so we have to understand our decision about consumption of some of these products. We need to look at the whole picture, not just reductionists, but understanding the impact, whether or not it's for cancer, if it's for cardiovascular events. Now, the other big area is saturated fat. Now, there are some out there who say they want to make frying tallow again, that animal fats are extremely beneficial for you, and that this is a preferential course. And we have to begin the process of separating out fake news from fact. And we have to understand that beef tallow, it's a solid fat. It's a whitish fat. It's basically rendered beef fat, right? And it's found in their organs and skin. And is primarily composed of what? Saturated fats. So you say, okay, well, what's the big deal about saturated fats? Well, it raises your low density level lipoprotein. In other words, your particle size, your particles that are there, which we understand, as we've identified, is a risk factor for future atherosclerotic cardiovascular events. So when we look at this process that can be complex, when you look at it from the exogenous, from eating these substances, that saturated fats, they raise your low-density lipoprotein cholesterol by suppressing the activity of LDL receptors in the liver, right? And this reduces the clearance of LDL from the blood and promotes its production. So when we look at what is the impact of consumption of saturated fats, we want to minimize saturated fats, which is a unanimous recommendation. That is by American Heart Association, American College of Cardiology, and what the evidence in lifestyle medicine tells us as well. Recent study published just now looking at a comparison of essentially seed oils. It was a mixture. It did have olive oil, but various seed oils, which has been vilified in comparison to butter, a form of saturated fat. And it found that when you replace this, that you're going to cut your premature risk of death by nearly 17%. They examined over 200,000 individuals for over 30 years. And they found once again that the higher consumption when you replace these saturated fats with the plant-based oils, soybean, canola, olive oil, it was associated with a lower risk of cancer and cardiovascular disease. So we have to understand, what are we comparing it to? This study did not compare no oil to oil. It compared substituting out saturated fat for seed oil or plant oils and seeing it. Side note, many of the seed oils are associated and embedded with ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed foods are highly palatable, and we understand, given not only the additives, the emulsifiers, the refined carbohydrates that are all triggering this disease process, that it's encapsulated. So it's difficult to tease out seed oils as a primary driver of adverse events when you look at the packaging of ultra-processed foods. Another very interesting study that was published some time ago, looking at young and healthy, meaning no issues whatsoever. They said, let's put you on a low-carb, high-fat diet, and you continue your other standard diet. It wasn't necessarily a plant-based. And what they found is that you had an increased level of risk, increased level of markers, apolipoprotein B, total cholesterol, low-density lipoprotein cholesterol, uric acid, in this low carbohydrate, high fat diet, compared to the other group that had no change just after 3 weeks. Others say that was done really looking and teasing out the effects of high saturated fat diet on LDL particles with atherogenic dyslipidemia. This randomized. So what they did, LSF is low saturated fat, HSF is high saturated fat, and looking specifically at their total cholesterol, the delta means change. On the low saturated fat, they had a minus, means it reduced down to nearly 6, whereas the HSF was increased by 11. And you saw this consistently. Your LDL-C down by nearly 9, up by nearly 17. Your non-HDL, another marker of the atherogenic particles, down by nearly 8, up by 13. in the high saturated fat diet group. Your apolipoprotein B down nearly 7, up by nearly 10 inside the high saturated fat. We're seeing a consistent theme in terms of the data that's there. We understand that when we look at a breakdown of our cholesterol, the large buoyant beach ball versus the small golf balls, we see a difference as it relates to what we were demonstrating in terms of the outcomes. I think it tells us, number one, it's never too late to change the direction in life that we're going in. And if we recognize the simple equation that our health equals resiliency over stress, we know we can impact that by our nutrition, right? And so understanding that our nutrition plays a role in building our resiliency or adding to our stress was the premise once again for selfish. And so when I look at selfish, spiritual, which means what is your purpose in life? What's your meaning that you're getting? And the practice of it, looking in terms of your breathing and meditation, mindfulness, the E for exercise, the L for love, for forgiveness and gratitude. The F, the central piece is F, and it stands for food, but also factual food. It stands for fiber-rich foods that are there. The I stands for intimacy of relationships. The S stands for sleep and rest, and the H stands for joy of life. And this is what let me develop what I called at that time the Cath Lab, Cooking Alternative to Health, where I volunteered my time to deliver cooking demonstrations to patients to really identify how the foods that you eat can add to your resiliency and fight disease in a similar mechanism that I implement inside the Cath Lab, that we can still regress vascular disease. We can halt the progression. We can still keep you from having future heart attacks. And that food can actually add to your resiliency. When we look at this everything, remember I described to you the line, that vertical line, and everything to the left of the line denotes in terms of regression. It's an improvement from baseline. To the right means it's a worsening of baseline. So we understand when you substitute saturated fatty acids for trans fats, which should not exist on Earth, right? That is going to increase your risk. When you substitute saturated fatty acids for mono and polyunsaturated fatty acids, we see an immediate benefit. However, when you add in the refined carbohydrates, the standard American diet, right? Carbohydrates from that, we see a worsening. That's no surprise. But when we have carbs, that's what I want to tell you, carbohydrates aren't bad for you. Garbage is bad for you. Garbage is garbage. And so the stuff that melts in your mouth, not in your hands, that leads to increased events, that is stuff that's made from refined carbohydrates where all the fiber is extracted, the water, and it maintains its shelf life. We see this. Multiple studies still telling us a very similar type scenario in terms of looking at the outcomes. Now, so overall, when we replace saturated fatty acids with polyunsaturated fatty acids, reduces occurrence of coronary heart disease by 19%. Each 5% greater intake of polyunsaturated fatty acids reduce coronary heart disease by 10% and decrease the LDL-C by about 10 milligrams per deciliter. So when we look overall in terms of the oil debate, which is there, and this is a part of it, great study done by Monica Agrawal, published inside Circulation, that's their randomized crossover trial, which means they kind of had two separate groups, put them on a plan. They didn't know it was blinded. And then what they did was they crossed them over and they switched the diets to kind of see what would happen. They took adults, 5% cardiovascular disease risk. Remember I talked about 5%, 7.5%, 10%. So they said 5% above, which means they had some level of risk that was there. And they followed what they called a high, which means only 4 tablespoons, right? So 4 tablespoons, that can go pretty quickly if you're frying, right? If you're making frying tallow again, that can go pretty high in other situations. Compare that to a low, less than 1 teaspoon per day. That means essentially none. And using low to high extra virgin olive oil, and they along with a whole food plant-based diet. So the common theme was let's make sure the nutrition is great. They gave them a 1-week washout, which means they didn't just start you one day and switch diets the next day. They had a washout period of time before switching over, and they both diets, right? So it means that the core component of a whole food plant-based diet, it resulted in a decrease in your LDL-C, your total cholesterol, your apolipoprotein B, in glucose and high sensitivity C-reactive protein. So there's value in the whole food plant-based diet. But when they looked at the sequence of the diet of the oil, what they found is that the differences in the diet by diet order. So when you went to a low diet, low oil consumption, the delta change, it reduced by nearly 12.7, right? Versus low to high, it increased by 15.8 in terms of the LDLC that's there. And so we understand that there was an increase, and we looked at other metrics too as well. So it tells us we have to, every person is different and individual. And so if you're consuming oil, you have to, what I call, inspect what you expect. You have to look and see what is the impact on your own lifestyle. What are your numbers measuring out to be? But not just understanding that your lipid profile is imperfect. So you have to be aware to be able to ask your doc, not just your total cholesterol, not just your HDL, not just your triglycerides. What is my apolipoprotein? What's my C-reactive protein that's happening there that gives you a better reflection of the impact of your lifestyle? So one of the things that we would do additionally inside of our cooking classes, we would make certain meals like this one.